pursuit of a serial killer. Zach reached up to pull Brady in for one more hug. You'd better. Palmer Lake, Colorado. The blaze from the fireplace warmed Cynthia Loeb's bare arms as she sat on the rug in her living room, adding the final strokes to what would be listed on eBay as a hand-painted wastebasket by a world-famous artist. Famous was a stretch, she conceded to herself. But it was true that her artwork could be found in bathrooms all over the world, thanks to the propagation of online trading. Her head jerked up at the sound from the back bedrooms. Outside noises were rare this far back from the road, especially this late at night, and she would have noticed headlights if a car had driven up the drive. The fire must have made a peculiar noise. She held the wastebasket in both hands and nodded. Tomorrow, the Louvre, she said aloud, and jumped. Another noise. A quiet scrape, like a window being opened or a shoe scuffing against the hardwood floor. Slowly, she lowered the wastebasket to the floor. She unraveled her legs and rose, grimacing at the pain in her lower back. The noise that reached her at that moment was more puzzling than frightening, a light click, 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 quick and growing louder. She scanned the room for something that could be used as a weapon. Stepping around the wastebasket and over her pallet, she edged over to the fireplace where she lifted a heavy iron poker from its stand. She stepped into the hall entrance. "Who's there?" she called weakly. She cleared her throat. "Who's there?" Better. Click, 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 click. An animal appeared out of the shadows, its eyes glowing green. It was a dog, or a wolf. Despite the shaggy gray-black fur that covered its body, she saw its strength in the hulking muscles of its shoulders and haunches. Under a long snout, fangs glimmered. Its lips, hiked up over ebony gums, quivered, and the thing snarled. "Back!" Cynthia yelled. She jabbed at the air with the poker. In an instant, the animal bounded twice and leaped at her. She felt the burst of air from her lungs as its paws slammed against her chest, knocking her back into the living room. She and the animal and a small table crashed to the floor. She covered her throat, knowing that that's where the animal would attack. Instead, it backed away. She sat up. The animal stood between her and the fire, glaring. She got her feet under her, stood, and raised the poker. "Go!" she raged. She heard the clicking again and caught movement out of the corner of her vision. Another wolf dog broke from the shadowy hall. It was in the air before she could fathom how to respond. Its jaws clamped down on her extended wrist. The poker flipped out of her hand, thudding loudly on the hardwood, banging against the front door. Pain raced up her arm and turned into a piercing scream when it reached her throat. The weight of the beast wrenched her arm down. She tried to flail her arms to beat away the monsters, but they were too heavy. Their mouths gripped her muscles and bones too securely. Shadows danced everywhere. It took her a moment to grasp that a shadow of one of the wolf dogs was, in fact, a third animal. It stood half in the room, half in the hall, watching her futile maneuvers. The other two had stopped tugging and grinding. They seemed content to hold her dripping arms. Dizzy from pain, she moaned at the watching animal and swayed forward, then back again. The third dog stepped completely into the room. Directly behind it came a man. He wasn't tall, but was extremely muscular, with broad shoulders made broader by animal pelts draped over them and clasped in front. His beard and mustache exploded from his face in great rusty profusion. His matted hair hung long but was swept back away from his eyes. His face was glacial, deeply creviced, icily stoic. The mouth was a gash, downturned with fierce determination. A heavy shirt hung beneath the pelts and was cinched at the waist with rough leather. Pants clung to legs bulging with power and vanished into high boots. He was entirely out of place, Cynthia decided, not just in her home, but in her time, in anyone's time for countless generations. Her eyes widened when she saw the object clenched in his right fist. She was looking at an axe. The man held it almost unknowingly, the way someone else might hold a briefcase or wear a watch. She took some hope from this casual treatment of the weapon. "What?" she started, but the sudden movement silenced her. He strode toward her, lifting the axe over and behind his head. His left hand rose to grip the other end of the long handle. The wolf dogs growled with excitement as the blade came back around, slicing through the air like a bolt from the fire it reflected. She hitched a sharp breath, but had no chance to scream before the metal found her neck. The clock's shrill alarm cut through the haze in his head, jolting him upright. The noise stopped. Before his addled brain could drift back to oblivion, it shrilled again. It wasn't the alarm clock, it was his cell phone. He frantically reached for it and opened his eyes. It was still dark outside. Brady glared at the phone's glowing screen. "Hello? Did I wake you?" Stupid question. I hope I didn't wake Zach. Alicia was in one of her excited states. Something was happening. "What time is it?" 1:10, my time. 10 after 3 for you." Brady moved the phone from his ear and pushed the button that lowered its volume. When he put it back to his ear, she was saying, "Believe it? So soon?" "What so soon?" "Brady, where are you?" "I just said he struck again. It's been only 2 days since the last one. If this guy's pattern is accelerating, I don't want to think about the implications." "Where are you?" "On my way to the scene where you should be. Listen, you have to get out here now. My ticket is no good." "You were going to fly into Denver, right? Change it to Colorado Springs and then drive north to the next town. Hold on." The rustle of papers, maps, Brady presumed. His mind was clearing. One dose of Alicia had that effect. 2 towns, she said. Palmer Lake. Wait a minute, when will you get here? If there's a flight and I leave home in an hour, you're right, you'll get here too late. 7 hours soonest. The locals are waiting for me at the scene, and they're not too happy about it. What else is new, right? Anyway, I gotta dive in as soon as I get there. Call me when you land, and I'll guide you in. Chapter 2. Alicia Wagner slowed her rental car and took in the scene. A string of cruisers and unmarked cars on the left side of the narrow lane. One officer standing guard at the drive. Neighbors from unseen houses milling around 50 yards up the lane, curious and uneasy. She reversed, then pulled in behind the last car, a beige sedan with federal government plates. As she got out, the loose red dirt under her feet gave way, and she had to jump into a 3-foot-deep drainage ditch to keep from falling. She pulled a spherical leather case from the trunk and set it on the ground, then hefted out a heavy valise and slung its strap over her shoulder. She slammed the trunk lid, and case in hand headed for the young man in a gray uniform of an El Paso County deputy. As she drew closer, his lips slowly bent into a crooked smile. Alicia had been told she was pretty enough times to believe it, though in her experience, pretty attracted more demons than angels. 5'6", with oversized green eyes and straight blonde hair that swept across her forehead and fell to her shoulders. And she was as gung-ho about catching the bad guys as any boxer shorts-wearing He-Man in the bureau. She focused on the gravel driveway that apparently led to the crime scene and didn't slow her pace as she approached the deputy. Without a word, he blocked her path with his arm. She centered her gaze on his and said, "Special Agent Alicia Wagner, FBI." "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said through a strained smile. "May I see some ID?" She set down the case in her hand, bent to deposit the heavier one on the ground, and fished her credentials out of a hip pocket. After studying her picture, the deputy directed his flashlight beam into her face. "Just up the drive, ma'am. They're expecting you." She lifted her case, pulled the valise's strap onto her shoulder, and started toward the house. For a moment, she was astounded by the stillness of the area. No hum of distant traffic, no whisper of wind through the trees, no animal or insect noises at all. The air was crisp and smelled of pine and moss and dirt. Another man came toward her. "Agent Wagner?" He appeared to be just south of 60, heavy-set with a full head of silver hair. He wore a dark suit that had likely come off the rack at Sears, a thin, colorless tie, and shoes that must have last held a shine when Clinton was president. He was assigned to the Colorado Springs Resident Agency, which reported to the Bureau's field office in Denver. "Yes, Agent Nelson?" "Jack," he said. "We spoke on the phone. Let me help." He reached for the strap, and she let the heavy bag slide off her shoulder. It swung into his leg, knocking him off balance. "Man," he said. "Laser printer," she explained. "Supposedly portable." He gestured at the other case. "Going bowling?" She smiled and hoisted the case, which did resemble a bowling ball bag on steroids. "This is why I'm here, the future of crime scene processing." He gave it another look, his eyebrows crinkling in wonder. Okay, he said. She lowered her voice. "Thank you for being so on top of this." "Doing my job." Getting locals to wait for us is above and beyond. She surveyed the group of men standing in the shadows. How do they